up the phone. I've been calling to avoid me for weeks. I've been dialing.
I always love hangers, they're so much fun.
Slightly available, yet when I call you, you don't pick up the phone. I don't think you understand how much I want you to be my man. When I call you, I imagine what you'd say when you...
So, a pain crisis is when you have a lot of pain in your body. Could be your whole body, could be a certain part of your body. And usually what they try and do when you're in hospital is make sure that obviously you're getting enough oxygen, to make sure that your blood count, all the stuff that is in your blood, is at the right level, and obviously they treat the pain. For me specifically, for some strange reason, when I'm having a pain crisis, I need really strong pain relief, and that tends to be administered through the IV, so basically straight into my veins, and it tends to be really strong stuff. So you can think of a lot of type of strong stuff, morphine or IV paracetamol. And it has to, and sometimes in this case especially specifically, it had to be a high dose of that, which is really interesting. I say that it's really interesting not because, you know, I like being high on drugs or anything, but I reflect on the fact that I've had so many crises in my past, and having them now, that when I do need pain relief, and because I am in a lot of pain, I tend to ask for the kind of highest dosages you can get, to which obviously a lot of the medical staff are always very, very cautious, because let's be honest, some of these drugs are very dangerous. You could cause a cardiac arrest, especially with stuff like morphine. It slows down your heart, it slows down, you know, that's how it treats it. It literally kind of starts to slowly kill you. It slows down your heart and your breathing to relax you a lot more. And with the average patient, I'm told, a few nurses were talking to me and they were saying that with some of the average patients, they're out in 5 milligrams, like completely sleeping. And I was getting 10 milligrams straight in my veins and stuff, and I'd still be like coherent, having a conversation, and they'll just be looking at me like, why are you not dozing off or looking the slightest bit? And I'm like, I've lived with this condition for a very long time in my life. This is not the first time for me to get this sort of pain relief. This is not my first time at the rodeo, ladies. So yeah, it's interesting. A few nurses were quite hesitant when they were giving me the drugs, because they were like, I've never had to administer this much straight into somebody's veins either, and so they were going really, really slowly, and I was like, we're gonna be here forever, you know, come on, let's get it on, let's do this sort of thing. But yeah, people are cautious because sometimes the drugs you take can be very harmful to you. And finally we got hold of the pain came down, I was feeling good, and I've been sent home, which is nice. So I've got some time off. I've talked to my TI, I've talked to my diocese, and people understand because they know that I live with this condition. They know that I manage this condition. I think the reason I am making this video is a bit of self-therapy. I am a person who likes to be private about my life sometimes. Well, especially some of the difficult things. And it's hard to talk about health. It's hard to talk about mental health, physical health. But also, sometimes people need to understand, especially when you live and work in a community like I do. I work in a church. People are going to ask where the vicar is. Why is the vicar not at the service? Or how come we haven't seen the vicar for a while? And people do worry about you because they care. It's out of care and concern, and I understand that. And sometimes we do put up those barriers in our lives to kind of go, this is my work life over here, this is my private life. But when you live and you are part of who you are in work and in your private life is the same sort of sphere, with ministry specifically, there is some greying of those lines. And so you can't always keep things quiet, you can't always keep things secret. And people want to know. So actually, I ended up having some people from my church visit me in hospital. It was difficult because I think sometimes us as vicars like to always be dog collar on, looking smart, very serious. I'm the vicar sort of thing, in a loving way. But when you're suddenly in your PJs and a t-shirt in hospital and your parishioners are visiting you, it's a different thing. When it comes to sickle cell, it tends to be predominantly common in black, African, Afro-Caribbean, I think, ethnicities. So not a lot is studied on it. There's not a lot in medical textbooks. And a lot of the medical stuff that you may encounter when you live in the West, if you're down in London, I'm told, you're most likely to, and you need to go to a hospital, they would have, because of the diversity, because of the diversity of London, it's not so alien. But for example, when I was in Durham for 3 years, they were like, we've never had anyone who suffers from sickle cell, the hematology department there. And so it took them a while to get up to speed and kind of try and figure out what's the best thing to do, who are the consultants we can talk to. And even me living here in Norfolk, where I have a great team that look after me, a hematology team and a great amount of doctors who I speak to, they still will consult with other hematologists from a bigger city and from a bigger department where they see a lot more patients. And sometimes that is difficult because certainly I have had times when I've had to go to hospital and almost I've had to be the one telling the doctor how I'm usually treated, what I think the best judgment is, what I think the best course of action is. Which, again, when you're the patient, you're the vulnerable one, you're the one who is in need of something, it is more stressful than it needs to be. Or, and again, this has happened to me some other times, where I have said to doctors, this is what we should do, or at least this is what I think we should do, this is what has happened to me in the past and this is how it's been treated, or I'm in a lot of pain, I really do need a lot of pain relief, and they don't tend to believe you immediately. And of course those safeguards are there because they're doing the best they can to look after you, and also trying to make sure that what they are suggesting and what they're looking at is the right sort of thing. But what tends to happen is that in that process happening, you find that for me, the patient, 2 days in, say, a certain type of ward where I'm being monitored when I should be getting treated, because the doctors have to kind of figure out what to do with me, I'm only getting more ill and I'm in a lot more pain. So by the time finally, when they kind of get their heads together and go, okay, this is what we should do, you're in a place where you're in a lot more pain, and it's difficult because it does create not a distrust, but again, an anxiety and a fear of the system which is supposed to help you. It's not easy. And I'm not putting any blame on anyone. But it's because, like I said, it's a disease that's common to mostly black ethnic minorities. I hope a lot more education is happening about it. And this is why I wanted to share my story and to talk about it a bit more openly. It's certainly something I will continue to talk about a bit more. I think this will be the first of. I think one of the last things I wanted to say is, like I said, this is going to be a conversation that starts now but does not end now. I just wanted to get my initial kind of thoughts out there, my initial story, and talk about it a little bit. And hopefully we'll move on from there. So, I know this one's been a bit much more longer than all my other videos, but I am hoping that it's a good one. I think we should be people who should be more open and talk about the things that we struggle with. And raising awareness is always a good thing, and hopefully making people understand. I don't want your sympathy. This is not about me getting sympathy. I don't want your sympathy, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. But this is about me saying, this is how I live. I show you how I have fun, I show you what I think. It's about me being honest and saying this is who I am. But also I'm trying to raise awareness for this condition and people who suffer with this condition, because there are quite a lot of us. We're a small community, but there are quite a lot of us. It is what it is. I have been fully charged and revved up. I'll see you guys on the next one.